You can still want God and feel far from Him at the same time. That does not make you fake. It does not mean your faith is gone. It may just mean you are tired in a place you do not really know how to explain. Maybe prayer has started to feel like talking into the air. Scripture does not land the way it used to. Worship is happening around you, but somehow you still feel outside of it. That place can be hard to explain, because it is not always unbelief. It is not some dramatic rebellion. Sometimes it feels more like sitting in a room where the light used to feel warm, and now everything is a little dimmer. If that sounds familiar, hear this without shame. Distance is not the same thing as failure. And the way back probably does not begin with a perfect prayer. It can begin with one truthful sentence. God, I am here, but I do not feel close. Here is the first distinction to make. Feeling God's absence is not the same thing as being abandoned by God. The Bible does not treat spiritual distance as a fake problem, it gives language for it. Psalm 42:5 asks, "Why art thou cast down, O my soul?" Psalm 13:1 begins, "How long wilt thou forget me, O Lord, forever?" Those are not the words of people pretending everything is fine. They are the words of people bringing confusion into the presence of God instead of hiding it. That matters because many believers quietly assume that a strong faith should always feel clear, warm, and certain. But Scripture gives us a wider picture. Sometimes faith looks like worship. Sometimes it looks like waiting. Sometimes it looks like telling the truth while your emotions have not caught up yet. James 4:8 says, "Draw nigh to God, and He will draw nigh to you." That is not a command to manufacture a feeling on demand. It is an invitation to turn your attention back toward God before you feel fully restored. So if God feels distant, do not begin by judging the distance too quickly. Ask a better question. What kind of distance is this? Is it guilt that made you avoid Him? Is it grief that made prayer painful? Is it noise that made your soul unable to listen? Is it disappointment that taught you to expect less from hope? Those are different problems. They do not all need the same response. The first step is not to label yourself as failing. The first step is to name what is actually happening. Scripture gives you permission to do that. Lament is not unbelief. Honest grief is not rebellion. A tired soul is not automatically a lost soul. When you can name the distance more clearly, the next step becomes less vague. You are no longer trying to fix your entire spiritual life at once. You are bringing one true thing into the light. And that is where reconnection often begins, not with a perfect feeling, but with a truthful return. Not every spiritual distance begins with rebellion. Sometimes faith feels weak because life has been heavy for a long time. A person can keep showing up, keep believing the right things, and still feel like something inside has gone quiet. Disappointment can do that. Grief can do that. So can noise. If the soul never gets quiet, it may not notice God's nearness. And if hope has been bruised, prayer can start to feel dangerous because prayer means wanting again. Scripture has language for that kind of tired faith. In Psalm 6:6, David says, "I am weary with my groaning." That is not polished religion. That is exhaustion brought honestly before God. Psalm 42 uses an even stronger image. "All thy waves and thy billows are gone over me." The psalmist is not describing a small bad mood. He is describing pressure that keeps arriving before the soul has recovered from the last wave. So if God feels distant, ask the question more carefully. Is this guilt? Is it grief? Is it noise? Is it disappointment? Those are not the same thing. This matters because the wrong diagnosis creates the wrong response. If the problem is grief and you treat it like laziness, you may become harsher with yourself instead of more honest with God. Guilt may need confession. Grief may need lament. Noise may need silence. Disappointment may need the courage to tell God what hurt. The mistake is treating every kind of distance like a discipline problem. Sometimes what looks like weak faith is actually wounded faith, and wounded faith does not need a performance. It needs truth, patience, and a safe return to the presence of God. You do not have to pretend the wound is small. Bring the real wound into the light. God is not honored by a fake version of your heart. The first return is usually smaller than we want it to be. It does not begin by trying to become spiritually impressive overnight, not by forcing yourself to feel close on command. Start by coming near with the real version of yourself. James 4:8 says, "Draw nigh to God, and He will draw nigh to you." That is not a command to manufacture emotion. It is an invitation to turn toward God before the feeling has fully returned. That matters because performance can look religious while still keeping the heart hidden. You can say all the right words and still avoid the one true thing. You can build a perfect routine and still never bring the wound into the conversation. Honest return is different. It may be almost embarrassingly small. No speech prepared, no spiritual mood assembled, no attempt to make the wound sound prettier than it is. Just the moment when you stop editing yourself before God. Maybe the whole prayer is only this. God, I am here. Then you stay there for a breath longer than you wanted to. That is not dramatic, but it is real. And real is a better beginning than impressive. The point is not to make your faith look alive for the camera of your own mind. The point is to stop leaving the truest part of you outside the conversation with God. From there, the practice stays small. A psalm can be read slowly, not finished like a task. 2 quiet minutes can become enough space to notice what you have been avoiding. None of it has to look dramatic to be faithful. Sometimes the door back into prayer opens with a sentence so small you almost dismiss it. And if you do that and still feel silence, do not panic. Silence is painful, but it is not proof that God is absent. Part of mature faith is learning the difference between God's presence and the feeling of God's presence. Feelings matter. They are not fake. They can warn us, reveal us, and help us notice what needs care. But feelings are not the foundation. They are more like weather. The foundation is deeper. God's character, His mercy, and His patience with the weary. Christ does not only invite the strong. In Matthew 11:28, He says, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." So today, do not measure your faith only by how close God feels. Measure it also by the direction of your heart. There may still be a small part of you that wants to stop hiding. Pay attention to that. It may not feel heroic, it may not feel strong, but desire that small can still be real. Then start there, not with a grand comeback and not with a promise that tomorrow you will become a different person. Start with one small turn. For 5 minutes, the phone can stay face down. One psalm can be read without rushing. The sentence you have been avoiding can be said plainly. Silence can become a place to pay attention again, not a task you perform to earn closeness. Faith often returns like morning light. Not all at once, not because you force the sun up, but slowly enough that if you keep facing the horizon, you begin to see that the dark was not the end of the story. If God feels far away, start here. Tell Him the truth, make room for silence, and take one small turn toward Him today. And if this video helped you feel a little less alone, please subscribe. This channel is meant to be a quiet place for honest, scripture-led reflection when faith feels hard.